and welcome to Brothers War Tonight. Today we have a variety of special guests with us, but among our first is Adelaide on site at Maryland.
Here I am in Sharpsburg, Maryland, at the Battle of Antietam. This seems to be the bloodiest battle so far. I've just finished talking to Mr. Matthew Brady, who has been taking photographs of this scene to show people who are in the truly devastation of the Civil War to see how bad it is. As y'all know, photographs ain't normally used to capture such gruesome scenes. However, this is an exception, because it's important for the general public to be informed about the progression of war. I watched Mr. Brady here set up this daguerreotype camera for a while now. This camera requires a long exposure time while taking the picture, and they are very heavy and bulky, and almost always require a tripod. Sadly, since these pictures take such a long time to develop, we cannot provide any photographs during the actual battle. Mr. Brady said that it would be nearly impossible. The only photos we can take here are before the battle and after the battle, and this scene is clearly after the battle.
Thank you much, Adelaide. Now here's to Mary with a special book segment.
Thank you, Adelaide. Today on Brothers War Tonight, we are focusing on all different forms of literature that influenced the Civil War as a special edition of Book Bend. Walt Whitman was a prominent poet before and during the Civil War. He had a belief that it was almost his destiny to do something to help the war, so he began to write about the war. One Southerner who gave sorrowed accounts after the war was William Faulkner. His key piece of literature is known as The Sound and the Fury, and it details his belief that post-war, the United States did not become truly united once more. Though most of the Confederate literature, except for diaries and letters, mainly describes the loss of their way of life and Southern culture as a result of the war, some Union literature pertained and described the occurrences of the war. One example of this is Hospital Sketches, written by Louisa May Alcott about her experiences as a nurse in a Union hospital. To conclude with this segment, I would like to touch upon a piece that greatly influenced the occurrence of the war. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln that is, believed Uncle Tom's Cabin, an anti-slavery novel by Harriet Beecher Stowe, was the true start to the Civil War. Now, after this break from our sponsors, here's an interviewer with our special guest, Charlotte Cushman. Are you bored?
And has the war stripped you of your wealth?
Well, no fear.
Dime novels are here!
Dime novels are the hottest new trend.
Cheap and enticing, this popular literature is sure to satisfy your need for culture.
Pick up one today. Today we have a very special guest with us. Some say she's the most famous actress of the 19th century, and I've heard Abraham Lincoln himself is a huge fan. Here she is, Miss Charlotte Cushman.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So I hear you're what's called a breeches actress, meaning you play male roles as well as female roles, one of the most prominent being Romeo to your sister Suzanne's Juliet. How do you feel in these roles?
Well, considering it's not actually too uncommon for women to play these male roles, it's very interesting and I enjoy it. I've played about 190 lead roles, and 30 of them have been male.
And what have you done for the troops during the war?
I try to perform for the soldiers as much as I can.
That's great. How nice of you. Now, in your opinion, is it a difficult job being a busy actress?
Yes, actors and actresses nowadays have not only very physically demanding jobs with a grueling performance schedule, but most are expected to know 100 or more parts and learn new ones in 1 or 2 days' time. During the war, it's normal for me to perform in anywhere from 40 to 130 plays in a season.
Sounds rigorous. What about other struggles, maybe not physically?
Well, I do find it difficult because women in this decade are more desired if they are delicate and fragile and dependent, but being a woman in theater requires me to be strong-willed and independent.
That is very true, Charlotte. And what about touring around the country? Does that bother you at all?
Touring was a really huge part of my life before the war, and it made it easy for different cities other than the major ones like New York City, San Francisco, and Philadelphia to have plays. But touring is now scarce in the north and almost completely stopped in the south.
So I see. Speaking of your life before the war, I understand you started your career as an opera singer.
I did! I had a lovely voice, but it soon failed. Even I'm not sure why. But I suppose that's a good thing because opera is really only popular with the upper class, and I think there are only 2 significant opera houses open at the moment.
Oh, and what kind of plays or styles of acting do you think are most popular now?
Well, since 1860, historical plays have really been all the rage. Though I predict after the war, more plays involving contemporary issues will come about. Shakespeare is also popular as well, and in fact my first role was Lady Macbeth. The companies producing minstrel shows have also doubled as of late. One of the most thriving plays since the start of the war has been the theatrical adaptation of the book Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. This has been really influential, and at one point there were 4 different shows of it in New York City at one time.
Wow, that's amazing, and such a coincidence as it was mentioned earlier in the book then. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, you too.
Now back to Mabel.
Thank you, Mary. Now we have a very special surprise guest singer today for us. Here they are now.
Thank you, Mabel, and now let's direct our attention to Francis Scott Key, reading his poem, Defense of Fort McHenry, or more commonly known as the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the clouds of the fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming? And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wasn't that just wonderful? Now on to today's topic of music and how it affected even the prisoners of war. Here is a beloved 1864 American Civil War song, Tramp, 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 or more commonly known as The Prisoner's Hope, composed by George Everett. This is a very spirited song and was written primarily to encourage the Union Civil War prisoners that hope for them was coming and to not be discouraged. John Newton, who was a slave trader and trafficked thousands of men, women, and children from Africa to the auction blocks. In 1748, a violent storm threatened to sink his ship. He fell to his knees and prayed to God for mercy. It was that night that John Newton sensed that there is a God who hears and answers to prayers, even for the worst men. Over time, Newton repented as a preacher. In 1772, he wrote a hymn called Faith's Review and Expectation, also known as Amazing Grace. This song is being sung by both sides of the Civil War because with only a few notes, it lifted the hearts of the hopeless and softened the hearts of the hardened. This song, with its power to transform the wrongs to rights, changed a man who once traded slaves to one who's fighting for their freedom. I'm going to share a quote with you from John Newton himself. Through many dangers, toils, and snarls, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. Robert E. Lee once remarked that without music, there would be no army. Certainly, music is a large part of life during the war between the states, both in the camps and at home. Not only is it a major source of entertainment, but it was also a way to give voice to the feelings words often alone could not express.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Where you going, Adelaide?
Well, since 1860...
Oh my god. As soon as I
that was like, oh my god. Okay.
It's probably not gonna turn out without the flash, TBH.
Ah! Oh, gosh. It's
Yay!